Hi, my name is Benjamin Durazo, and I will be interviewing Durazo, a landman from Alaska, Anchorage, Alaska. Dora, where were you born?
I was born in El Paso, Texas.
What made you take interest in this career?
I took interest in the law because I decided that it was something that allowed for creativity. It allowed for an opportunity to be able to do different things than what I was doing before. I was a pre-med major, and it just seemed like everything was a formula or everything was memorization. And I wanted something with more flexibility and the ability to be creative.
Perfect. What university did you attend?
I attended the University of Texas in Dallas for undergrad, and I attended the University of Texas at Austin for law school.
What courses proved helpful as you began practicing?
The courses that proved very helpful to me were really primarily three. Property law. Property law is, obviously determining who owns what rights people have with regard to not only the surface lands, but the mineral lands. Contract negotiations was super important because that ended up being the crux of my business. Just negotiating for lands and for easements and for that type of thing. And in addition to that, I enjoyed doing a lot of the oil and gas law because oil and gas law was really kind of firmed up the direction that I was going to go into.
How many years did you have to study to become a professional?
Well, 12 years of high school, 4 years of college, so we're at 16 now, and then plus 3 more for law school, so that was 19 years total.
For the years that you studied, how much was the final cost of law school?
It was expensive. Let's just say that it was probably about $30,000 per semester. I had an opportunity actually to go to the University of Georgetown. I got accepted into their 5-year international program, and that was going to be more like $60,000 a year. And I just decided that that was very expensive, and for the fact that I was paying for my own school.
Agreed. How did you discover what type of law you wanted to practice?
Well, I kind of came about it. One of the things that I grew up with was my father was a gas station owner in Mexico, and in Mexico, Pemex owns all the gas stations, all the oil at the time. It was nationalized at the time. So for me, that was just kind of a direction that I needed to go into. And then once I started looking at it, in the University of Texas, and for Texas, in order to pass the bar exam, you had to take oil and gas because it was a big component of it. At one point in time, the majority of the Texas economy was oil and gas. Of course, that's changed now, but at the time it was so important. That's been quite a few years. So it kind of just led me to not only tie my historical background and my family background to the study that I was doing.
What is the starting salary for a lawyer? How much does that increase as you go further in the career?
The starting salary for a lawyer varies, obviously, depending on what type of law you're practicing. If you're doing government law, usually it's lower paid. If you do city law, the same. Once you start getting into corporate law, and it just depends on the type of corporation that you're working for. In my particular case, at the time in 1990, it was about $36,000 a year. Obviously, that's probably doubled now in this time frame, and of course, it's easy to increase your salary depending on how much you're willing to move, what kind of risk you're willing to take, and what direction you're willing to follow.
What is the most effective way to get a job?
The most effective way to get a job is I've always said, just study. You need to study, and you need to study some more, and study the things that you want to study. The most effective way to get a job is to have a passion for a job. If you have a passion for a job, you're going to love what you're doing, you're going to do well at it. In addition to that, I think it's very important that you network. It's important that you know people in the arena that you want to be in. You want to be able to know what they do, exactly how they work, and know the people that are in that business. Because sometimes it's the people that you end up meeting that say, hey, I found an opportunity and that would be a perfect place for you. And you would have never known it but for that person that you know.
How is technology incorporated in your career?
Technology is incorporated in various facets. The first way, of course, everything is done in computers now. We text, we email, just all the different things that are done for the day-to-day business. Contracts, everything that is done, the way we negotiate, we do strike, delete, and that type of thing. We, compare the contracts and so forth. But in addition to that, the technology is big in when you're negotiating with people and in the discovery of documents. Depending on what you're trying to find or what you're trying to prove, if you find the documents that are in the public arena or that have been put out on a blog or in a Facebook or whatever, there are just things that are so visible to everybody that you can say, that person didn't really mean to do that because look at what he said over here. So I mean, it has its pluses in the fact that it can aid you in your work, but it has its negatives in the fact that it can either affect your trial negatively.
What is expected of you in the area of continuing education?
Continuing education is very important in the legal profession and in the landman profession as well. We're expected to have different credits. We usually have about 30 to 50 credits every 5 years. In addition to that, the most important component of our continuing education is ethics. Ethics obviously is how you deal with other people. It's how you deal with business. It's your business dealing. With ethics, it's about cheating, lying, stealing, etc. So you want to make sure that you are above board, that you are very honest in all the things that you do, and that you are a respectable person in your business. And those are the things that they teach you in what areas and to what extent you can and cannot do something, and it's very important.
What are some economic influences that have had a positive and or negative effect on your career?
The positive and negative effects of finances. I think the first aspect of finances is how that works into the business that I'm in. If I am working on a deal and it requires a lot of money or a lot of partnerships, we end up entering into joint ventures with other companies. Say, for example, we're going to drill a well in the North Slope, which is where primarily I worked. It may be a $30 to $50 million well, and so for one company to take that chunk of change in drilling a well when you have a 10% chance factor of the well being successful is a very high risk. So you mitigate that risk by finding partnerships. So let's say, for example, I enter into a partnership with somebody else like Exxon or Chevron or Mobil or just some of those different companies, and then we share the cost. We not only share the cost, but we share the risk, but then we also share the success. So in the business, it's very important that we have partnerships. It's important that you have the money to be able to do your business. On the personal end, obviously the harder that you work, the more that you're doing, the more that you can advance your career. The more moves sometimes that you're willing to make, taking different opportunities, taking different types of jobs within your same company, doing in the same field, affords you an opportunity to advance in your career financially.
What do you like most about your job? What about your least?
I liked so many things about my job. My job was cool. The thing that I liked the most about it was that it was different every day. I would come into work and I say, hey, today I'm going to do A, B, C, and D. I would get to the job and my gosh, something was more important. So let's say H came up to the forefront and then Z came up right behind it. And before you knew it, I was like super excited about H and C and making H and Z happen. And A, B, C, and D would have to wait for another day. So it was always just a various projects that just kind of came and went and fires that you had to put out. And that was, to me, exciting because I like a lot of diversity and I like a lot of energy. On the negative side, I think the thing that I liked the least about my job was the politics of the job. And by that I mean the politics of having to work with other people that had different ideas than you, or managers that wanted to do something different and you had to go along when you thought maybe that your ideas or the team's ideas were better. Because we normally work with a team of professionals like a geologist, a geophysicist, and an engineer. So those are the things that sometimes got a little dicey.
What was one of your most memorable cases?
My most memorable case was working with the Cookpit Corporation. The Cookpit Corporation was a Native organization that worked in that was in the North Slope area. They were a Native corporation. Obviously, they had been there before anybody came to Alaska. And they owned the land. They owned a lot of land. They did a lot of subsistence hunting and fishing in that area, so they were very proud of the land. And we wanted to use the land in order to drill wells, to put roads in there, and to do some of the work there. So we had to meet with them. I met with them several times, explained to them what we're trying to do. And really building of the relationship with that corporation was the most important thing that I needed to do to be able to accomplish the work that we wanted to do there. Building those relationships, and to this day maintaining those relationships, has been one of my proudest achievements, not because we were able to convince them to do something that they would have not wanted to do, but because we were able to convince them to do something that was going to be mutually beneficial to the parties.
Perfect. Is it worth becoming a lawyer?
Of course. It has been the best part of my life. It's been a great career.
Well, thank you, Laura. That concludes my interview.
Thank you so much for meeting you.
Okay.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.